Welcome back everyone to another Company of Heroes 2 replay cast, and this time we're going to have, as you can see, a 2v2 on Lear No. Our players are going to be Crossfire as the Soviets, Isildur as the Brits, and on the opposing side we're going to have the Hooligan as the Wehrmacht, Von Asten as the Wehrmacht, and Hooligan as OKW. Okay, already going some reinforced steel barricades to, I guess, prevent the enemy from getting into here. Interesting. So we already have a bit of an engagement coming in. Of course, we are going to be seeing a bit of a fight over the center, as it is Lear No, so lots of central action coming in from these infantry sections. Free infantry squads, as is usual, from Isildur. And yeah, that's going to get countered by the MG from Von Asten, so pretty easily going to be able to hold this position, especially with the support of perhaps a mortar. Once he gets enough manpower, he should probably go for that. The only problem are going to be these penals coming in from Crossfire, and they're going to be able to put in quite a bit of damage from the flank with these FCTs, and in the meantime, the infantry are actually tanking the shots with their heavy cover, just sort of avoiding themselves getting suppressed. So the MG is actually going to get forced away, which is a bit of a problem for the Germans. Right now, they are going to be losing the north, probably, to the infantry spam of the Brits. And they're losing the center if this MG cannot set up in time and provide some support versus the penals. They're also not in the best position in the south somehow, despite only being actually pushed by one engineer squad. The engineer squad has been able to do some work and capture some points. In the center, however, yeah, this penal squad is in a bit of a bad situation. They're going to be surrounded by enemy troops, and at this point, I would just retreat them if I were Crossfire. And right now, we see that Isildur isn't really providing that much help to Crossfire in the center, so that's will kind of just lead to the penals being forced away. However, because of this, the Brits do manage to capture these points up in the north. They will lose, however, the topmost field point. Yeah, forced away with those infantry. And at the same time, we're going to have the Grenadiers fighting it out along the tractor, but also getting pretty much, forced away by the MG. So, with this MG, I think that Isildur can definitely secure the north. The problem still stands that this is Lear No, so if you lose the center, it's going to be very, very hard to recapture it because of all the buildings. And now we finally have a mortar from Von Asten, so he's going to be able to use that mortar quite well against any kind of Soviet troops that try to hide into one building or the other. Right now, it seems like, it's going to be a bit of a, you could say, guerrilla action from these penals and the flamethrower engineer. Not really going to be able to dislodge the Germans off of their positions. The Soviets could try to go with a scout car at this point. They do have the flamethrower on the engineers, but I mean, with Grenadiers in the field, and of course, Hooligan is going to be going for a truck soon enough. It's starting to get a little late for the scout car. I feel like with a fourth penal squad, that is not going to happen. However, the Brits take control over the northern VPs, so at least the Allies are in a bit of a better position when it comes to VPs than when it comes to resources. And even in resources, they are catching up slowly but surely. As you can see, 53 munitions income for the Germans, but only 26 fuel income as opposed to 23. And with this squad of Soviet troops coming in for these points in the south, that is going to change soon. This squad's going to have to retreat away if it wants to live from all these penals. There's no way it can hold, so it really needs to escape as quickly as possible. It's still taking a while, but it will be able to escape. In the extreme north, of course, the infantry capture the point and get up some sandbags, but they're going to get flanked by these Grenadiers, and overall they're going to have to also withdraw because they're not going to be able to withstand these two squads at once. However, some support comes in the form of a sapper and a machine gun. So the machine gun's going to be able to force away the Grenadiers further to the east, and then they're going to have to deal with the other Grenadier squad. But it seems like the Brits, oh, come on, you could have wiped that, damn it. So Isildur actually missing a bit of an important opportunity. They should have definitely killed that Grenadier squad. But, oh well, the sappers will be heading towards the other Grenadier squad, and then this will be a pretty even fight because the MG isn't really intervening, but the sappers come on top. And up in the extreme north, the Pyos are going to be harassing the field points. A good play by Von Asten. Seeing that he cannot hold, he's going to just harass and provide some annoyances. He's also going for a flame half-track, which is a very, very decent choice in my opinion, especially considering it is, again, Learno, so tons of buildings in the center. The double flamer of the half-track is going to be providing lots of good anti-building damage for the German players. And because of that, they're going to have a sort of additional advantage when it comes to taking and holding the area. With the flame half-track being active, as you can see, these infantry were able to escape. But the penals are in a bit of a worse situation. As you can see, they got completely bathed in flame. And right now, they're going to have to run for their dear lives. However, the Soviets and the Brits have managed to secure a triple cap. So it's not all bad for them. They do have a little bit of an advantage when it comes to the VPs, and they're still going to be pressing that advantage home. But the penal actually goes down to the flame half-track. So very, very well played from Von Asten, actually chasing down with that very, very powerful early game unit. Wants to be using that as much as possible to cause as much damage and as many casualties while the enemy don't have any counters. And this is the second wipe that is going to participate in, taking out a infantry section. So great play with that flame half-track, an amazing unit, be used even better. So overall, this is causing a lot of problems for the Allies, and they're going to be losing their monopoly on VPs, as we see a couple of infantry squads in the south capturing there, and another one capturing the northwestern point. So that plus the mortar team and the scout car are going to be another major obstacle to the Allies. We're going to see how they deal with this. Of course, they do have an AT gun. Very good choice, especially considering that there is a flame half-track on the field, but also it's going to be very useful against the 222, and going to be very useful against the Lukes. So, of course, Hooligan going for the mechanized regiment headquarters. Even though his allies was going pretty heavy on the light vehicles, as you can see, flame half-track plus 222. So an interesting choice to go for a Lukes at this point. In my opinion, a bit of a bad choice as well. I mean, the Allies were already going to provide themselves with a lot of AT to counter the scout. Oh, what happened to the scout car? Well, except the scout car is dead. Anyway, point proven. They were going to be going with a lot of AT to counter the German Wehrmacht light vehicles. So because of the Wehrmacht buying light vehicles, it was pretty much a bad idea to go mechanized regiment headquarters and then go for a Lukes, because the opponents were already expecting to be able to have to counter this. I don't know. So here comes the satchel charge, and that's going to be the end of the flame half-track along with the AT gun. And at this point, the Lukes is alone, but there's a lot of counters on the field for it, so I don't think it will be able to actually do anything. Perhaps a Stuka might have been a better choice to try to deal with the anti-tank guns and the MG, because that would not have been in as much of a trouble due to all the allied counters to the light vehicles. I mean, I say this, but Crossfire obstinatively hasn't gone for a support weapons Campagnia. I'm not sure why. I mean, I feel like it's a terrible decision not to go for a support weapons Campagnia when you see this many light vehicles from the Germans. But I guess he's going to be going for the tier 3 soon enough. And the tier 3 would be quite useful to get out some Su-76s. That would also be pretty good against Lukes. However, in the center, we see that the Brits are starting to make some progress, starting to come back into it. And now they also have a 3-inch mortar pit going to be built right near, and that's going to be providing a lot of fire support to the British units as they assault into the central area of the map. That plus the just very, very annoying swarm of penals that Crossfire is going to be bringing out is going to be a bit of a problem for the Germans. And they don't really have the necessary means to deal with this, because this mortar pit is pretty much only countered by this mortar team. And that's not really going to be enough to deal with the mortar pit in any kind of capacity. So we're going to have to see whether or not Hooligan and Von Asten decide to go with some more artillery in the meantime, or if they're trying to save up their resources for later game units. Hooligan might be going for a Schwerpanzer headquarters at this point, or he might be trying to go for something like a Sturmtiger or a, let's see, no, he does not have Scavenger Doctrine. So interesting. Well, had to take a sip of water, sorry. Overall, we see that the Germans, while they still control the center, they're having some trouble on the flanks. So as you can see, the Brits and the Soviets aren't too behind when it comes to fuel income. However, yeah, they could be doing a whole lot better. They seem to have lost their lead when it comes to VPs. They are 450 as opposed to the 500 that they were in before, and the Germans only really lost a couple of points, going from 400 to 375. So the Germans have been able to keep a little bit of a patch on that bleeding VP counter. And right now they're also starting to make some progress in reclaiming the flanks. As you can see, they do have the Lukes and the Focus Grenadiers in the area. There is a Su-76, but at 12 minutes, at this point, I feel like Crossfire could have saved up some extra fuel. 75 fuel for the Su-76 assault gun. It's like 85 fuel to go for a mechanized Armor Campagnia. So I feel like at this point you could have gone for a T-34-76 straight up instead of going for a Su-76. Although the Su-76 is still going to be quite useful. I feel like, yeah, really not going for the support weapons Campagnia and then delaying so much on the Su-76 for whatever reason was really a critical mistake, allowing the Germans a little bit of extra free time for this Lukes than they should have had. Of course, the Lukes only got 1 kill, but as you can see, it's got a lot of veterancy. So it's almost up to Vet 1. So it's definitely been doing something this entire time, just not getting a lot of kills. Probably has just been forcing Allied units to retreat a whole lot. And yeah, overall, that's just kind of a shame that the Allies really allowed this thing to thrive, even though it shouldn't have. In the meantime, interestingly, Von Asten has gone for a sniper, and it's already got 6 kills, so definitely starting to prove itself. Interesting choice so late in the game to go for a sniper, but it is working, so I can't really complain too much about that. And we do have Phase 4, or sorry, Phase 3, maybe Tier 4 for Von Asten. So that could mean that he might be going for a command tank plus Panther strategy or something. I don't know, it just seems like, oh, this Su-76 kind of getting caught out with bad pathfinding. Luckily, of course, there was this building, but still, quite a lot of on the edge for this Su-76, almost dying out. And right now, it seems like the Soviet infantry is just taking so much damage and pushing in. Even the armor-piercing rounds coming in from the MG. Overall, not having that much fun. However, the Brits are pushing up and getting some nice captures up here in the north. That is, of course, mostly because of their anti-tank gun being able to provide them with anti-Luke support. However, there is a Schwerpanzer headquarters on the field for Hooligan, so we might see a Panzer IV or a Panther soon enough for him. And that would be quite good for him, because the Allies don't really have anything to counter this. I mean, Isidore, yeah, he still has not upgraded. Well, no, he has upgraded the company command post, but doesn't seem like he has that many resources right now. That's probably why he's going with these infantry up here, although for some reason, instead of just going in and relying on the fire support from the MG, he's just gonna throw an artillery flare and let the artillery flare miss, most likely. Yeah, okay, they are firing, but most likely it will miss and not really do too much. Overall, the Germans do hold and control the center, but only just, actually. It seems like the destruction of this house is going to push back the MG42. The MG42 going back to base to heal up is going to also provide a bit of a opening for the Allied troops as they now pour into the center area. This is going to be quite important because, of course, the central area with the +7 fuel is pretty much what the Germans have been holding on to dear life throughout this game. They have not allowed the Allies at any point, really, to get control over the center. And it seems like even now they're very, very much pulling in a lot of resources to defend the area. So that's kind of good for them. They want to hold this territory. They want to have the extra fuel. And it is paying off, because right now we have a heavy Panzer Corps for von Esten, and we also have a Schwer Panzer headquarters from Hooligan. Both German players are actually very, very high when it comes to the fuel, actually in reserve. So they can go for tanks right now. They can go for some Panzer IVs. I wonder if they'll go for Panzer IVs, wait for Panthers, wait for Tigers, anything like that. At least one of the players, however, should go for the Panzer IV. Just most likely the OKW player, just to get that extra bit of medium armor mid-game support. And unfortunately, it looks like Luke's run of terror is going to end in misery. Oh, SU-76 misses, and actually the damaged engine, another miss. Wow, holy hell. So not very lucky here for the SU-76M, and at the last possible moment it fires and actually hits. So overall, the SU-76 almost betraying the motherland, but yeah, I'm guessing that that's going to be the end of the SU-76. Come on, Rakenwerfer. No! Rakenwerfer, you will pay for this with your life. Will you? No. We'll be fine. SU-76 actually trying to close range barrage to destroy the Rakenwerfer as it's retreating. Cool choice. Mortar Pit, up to 10 kills. Not really performing all that well, but also, of course, doing its job and destroying some of these areas and providing a little bit of support to the allied troops in the center. Still not enough, however. Finally, a counter sniper will be purchased by Isildur to deal with this very, very annoying sniper, which is up to 17 kills. So definitely against the, I guess, pretty expensive Brits, this is going to be a nice thing. Quite a nice thing indeed. A Panther's on the field. So Von Asten already going for the Panther, and Hooligan is going for the KT, actually. So, yeah, I feel like that's a good choice, because he wants that extra sort of punch. The big heavy tank is going to provide him with some more capabilities than, for example, another medium would. His ally is going to go for the medium tank. He's going to go for the heavy tank. They're going to share the burn and the load. I feel like this is a good choice for the Germans, especially considering that he is facing the Soviets. So when it comes to anti-heavy armor, they're going to be lacking a little bit, unless we see a, for example, KV-2 assault tank. But it doesn't really seem like it. We do not know what Crossfire is planning. I would like to see a KV-2 out of him, actually. It would definitely help him out in holding the center. He could just like park it behind over here, behind these trees, and the KV-2 with the with the stationary fire mode can actually fire over trees and doesn't really care too much about terrain. So I feel like the KV-2 would be an excellent choice for him, especially since this is turning very much into a bit of a stalemate. It would help him out because the KV-2 does have that kind of like demi-artillery role, where it is both a tank and a sort of short-range artillery piece that can deal very, very well with static fortifications, static positions of infantry and garrisoned in buildings, etc., etc. So it can help out in that regard more than, for example, a KV-1 or even the KV-8 Flamethrower, or of course the T-34-85s from the Guard Mortar Coordination Tactics could. But yeah, we'll see what Crossfire tries to go for. Of course, he's got 1,000, or rather more than 1,000 manpower. So again, I would definitely urge him to go for a support weapons Campania and go for a couple of AT guns. It would definitely help him out in pretty much every sense of the word, because he needs, absolutely needs, in fact, that demo charge. Okay, good. He absolutely needs a little bit of extra anti-tank support that's not Su-76s, because the problem with Su-76 is that it's really, really easy for German armor to come in and destroy this thing. While this thing can do quite a bit of damage to enemy armor, and it is protected versus small arms fire, just 3 shots from your regular, German gun is going to take this thing out. So that's something that its, on-foot counterpart, the ZIS-3, just simply is going to be able to survive a lot better. For example, if a Panzer IV comes into a ZIS-3, it's going to take more than 3 shots to kill the ZIS-3 crew. However, if a Panther comes in and tries to fight a ZIS-3, it's going to take forever for the Panther to actually kill the ZIS-3. So this Su-76M kind of paradoxically, because it is armored, and it is kind of a little bit easier to hit for a tank gun, paradoxically that means that it's less survivable than the Zis free. So buy AT guns, they're good. And Crossfire actually did go for the KV2, or rather for Soviet industry, which means KV2. Also means repair stations, which again, in a match that is starting to become a little bit of a stalemate grind, is going to be very, very strong, of course. Just getting that extra, ability to repair your vehicles and pull them back into the fight, reducing downtime and increasing the amount of time where your vehicles are actually fighting the enemy. That's very, very good. However, the Cromwell from Isildur will be in a pretty bad spot, despite its speed. Still, again, a repair station will help out his ally as well, because, of course, repair station automatrons do repair allied vehicles as well as Soviet ones. So overall, I feel like spending, 70 munitions on a repair station might be Crossfire's, ways to go right now. He's got 5 penal squads. That is insane. He does not need 5 penals. He needs a couple of conscripts, in fact. Yeah, he really needs a couple of conscripts to have a little bit of extra, I guess you could say, expendability on his infantry, that he can just run south and always capture and decapture points. Plus, conscripts will be more useful with the anti-tank grenades. Of course, he has now upgraded anti-tank grenades because he's been going with the penals. But the anti-tank grenades, I feel like, with their additional range, are going to be a nice supplement to this throw satchel charge ability of the penal battalion. And here we do have the KT. So, of course, the KT provides a little bit of a terror. Yeah, provokes a bit of a mass retreat from these penals. Back to base you go, you filthy, filthy penal battalion. And yeah, KT is going to be very, very strong. Overall, I don't really see a lot of ways in which the allies can deal with it, especially since, again, the only source of AT for Crossfire is the Su-76 assault gun. So again, a couple of AT guns would just be so good for him right now. They would also help out against the KT, although not as much as against the Panther. I just don't know. I really like AT guns. And right now in the north, yeah, things aren't going all that well for the allies up north either, because as you can see, the VP game is starting to go into the Germans' favor once again. So we have 342 points for the allies, 326 for the Germans. The allies just haven't been able to solidly take a hold of the north and keep said hold. Yeah, mostly they just don't have the forces, it seems, to hunker down on an area and keep it. So they just always attack, and they just lack support weapons, so they can't defend any areas that they take. I mean, the sniper still hasn't been really used to take out enemy units. It's only been used to try to counter-snipe the German sniper. And the German sniper, to be fair, has slowed down its killing. As you can see, only 20 kills. Well, quote-unquote, only 20 kills. Earlier on, we had the sniper at 17, like a long time ago. So it's only gotten 3 kills since. Not bad. If the sniper's job was to delay the enemy sniper from killing allied units, then he's succeeding. But I feel like really Isildur went for that, 50 cal, I thought it was. Oh well, Boise T rifle sniper. I feel like he went for that, to kill the German sniper, not to neutralize him or diminish the damage it was doing. Still, here is the KV2. KV2 strong, comrades. So KV2 is on the field, and KV2 is angry because all his team hasn't been doing too much. So KV2 will now take Meter into his own hands and instantly gets a destruction on the house. So KV2 already proving how strong it is in the eyes of Crossfire, who's definitely going to be protecting this thing from enemy harm. Now, how? Wow, damn, KV2 already strong. What I would like to see for this KV2 is 1 or 2 repair stations behind these trees, and then a couple of AT guns protecting the flank. Again, at this point you probably hate me because of how many times I've mentioned this free anti-tank guns, but they would help Crossfire out so much. He's got the pop cap, he's got the, manpower, he's got the need. So he's got the means, the opportunity, and the need to go for something like that. Why not go for it? I feel like this saving up of manpower for something really is hurting him right now. And also generally the unwillingness of just spending like what 20 fuel in going for a support weapons Campanella. Yeah, it's just kind of interesting. I'm not sure why he wouldn't want to have more options, you know? It's kind of strange. Isildur, on the other hand, really is starting to go for a varied force. He's got a sniper, he's going to go for a new MG. It looks like he's lost the old one, but he's going to be replacing it. He's got an ET gun, he's got a couple of engineers. Of course, some of them planting some mines, so very, very good job. He's got a couple of infantry squads, he's got a Cromwell, and he's got the border placement, which has been working very, very well. As you can see, forcing back the Axis forces and helping out the strong Kiev-2, which is now attack rounding at maximum range for no reason. Still, this has allowed them a little bit of extra successes when it comes to taking and holding control over the north side of the map. Still, he's kind of lacking again and floating a lot of resources again. So right now the floating really is starting to hurt the allies a little bit more than they would want, and unfortunately the vet-free Su-76 is going to go down. That is very, very sad due to the Panzerfaust from these brave grenadiers and the Panther coming in, of course. And another penal squad, a penal squad going down. Wait, what? It was actually out of controlling into the Panther. So, brave to the last, this Su-76. However, it will not really be able to achieve too much of anything. And right now, the Königstiger plus the Panther and the Panzerwerfer, which I'm guessing is the reason why that squad was the, that penal squad was wiped in the southern flank. Yeah, they're all going to be able to do a lot of damage to the allied forces in the northern area of the map, because if they use their Königstiger, and of course they now have a Mapaxwagen and infrared half-track, if they can use these two units in tandem, spotting the enemy with the infrared half-track and then using the Königstiger to attack where they're weakest, spearheading the push so that the other units can come in behind and lend their mobility support to the Königstiger, they're going to be able to punch through the weak allied forces very, very easily. As you can see, right now the sum of total pop cap for the allies is about 130? No, 120. I'm terrible at maths. Whereas the Germans are at 150, 160 actually, pretty much. So as you can see, the Germans are higher, and they also have higher tier units that are sort of occupying this pop cap. As you can see, Panzerwerfer, Königstiger, Panther, all max tier units, then a Command Panzer IV versus Kiev-2. Kiev-2 strong, of course, but Kiev-2 is only one. Kiev-2 is poor lone Soviet tank. He needs support, and for some reason, Crossfire is going for a T-70. Okay, I'll stop with the terrible Russian accents. Anyway, so he's going for a T-70, probably, nice, Firefly. Probably going for a T-70 to provide the spotting support for the Kiev-2. Because Kiev-2 blind. Kiev-2 don't see anything, as you can see. Kiev-2 don't see anything, especially if go in stop mode. If go in, I guess, stationary mode, it do not see anything because it got no person up here. So it got no line of sight of its own. And Kiev-2 strong. It's got no line of sight of his own. So he needs the support, and the T-70 is going to provide that. However, he put the Kiev-2 into a pretty vulnerable position. And interestingly enough, Hooligan going for a Panther of his own. So right now, as you can see, Hooligan is just like so incredibly strong. He's got, well, pretty much 3 infantry units. Oh, there goes the Kiev-2 to the strafing run, actually. So that was a very, very good play by Von Asten. He put in the reconnaissance overflight to spot the Kiev-2, and then he called in the Stuka close air support while his friend's armor was actually pushing in. So very good coordination from the Germans. He's going to destroy the Kiev-2. This unit, or this ability, I guess, Stuka close air support, is such a good counter to the Kiev-2 because the Kiev-2, when it goes into stationary mode, great tulips, by the way, it kind of just not only doesn't see anything, but also takes a few seconds to actually go back into mobility mode. So if you airstrike it, it's actually going to have a very, very hard time dodging. So this is what the Germans use to great effect to pretty much neutralize it with the Struka close air support, which also provides stunning. And then once the KV-2 was stunned, they were able to exploit its kind of weak and exposed position to come in with both the Panther command, well, it's not a command tank, but the Panther medium tank and the Königstiger. So overall, very nice play from the Germans. Right now, the German tanks are in a bit of a pickle because of their damaged engines, but once they're repaired by these engineers, which are now taking some casualties, but soon enough will be back up. If they're repaired, then they're going to be able to just come in, and there's going to be no opposition right now from the Allies. We have, of course, the Sherman Firefly and the Cromwell from the Brits, but with no KV-2 strong tank, yeah, especially considering that Crossfire is going for another Su-76 for some reason, this is not going to be too easy for the Allies to come back into. I just don't see how they're going to be able to counter all the big, nasty German armor. And overall, I mean, the T-70 is actually going to be incredibly annoying and almost wiping out one of these Volksgrenadiers. But it alone isn't really going to be able to do anything. All it takes is one of these two Panthers to come down and sneeze at the T-70, and the T-70 is going to explode. So, overall, the situation is very bad for Crossfire. A little tiny bit better for Isildur, but it's still not that great. And right now, the Axis are in such a strong position, not only when it comes to units they have on the field, but when it comes to reserves as well. And as you can see, Von Asten is almost up to pretty much pop cap, and he's also got pretty much 300 fuel saved up and 1,200 manpower. So he could, you know, if he loses anything, he could just replace it pretty much instantly. So what he can do, he can play very aggressively and trade either evenly or even a little bit to a loss for him, and then replace the units instantly. And that would be still a good trade for him. So he can be a lot more aggressive than the Allies. His tactical options overall are just much bigger than what the Allies can do right now, because the Allies need to save their few units that they have on the field right now if they are to have a prayer of hope to actually succeed in the later game, because they need to keep these units alive and vetted up in order to provide a bit of a core for later, later heavier vehicles. For example, another Firefly or another KV-2. If in the meantime they lose their units, they're going to be defenseless before they, of course, before they manage to buy their new stuff. But the Axis don't really need to care too much about that, because if they lose one of their units, well, they can just simply go for another one. Also, right now, the Hooligan is about to have such a ridiculous combination of King Tiger, Panther, and Sturm Tiger. So he's going to have two Tigers, one of them with a giant-ass rocket, and then a Panther as well. So things are about to get pretty nasty for the Allies, especially since the Sturm Tiger is just a natural counter to defensive playstyles. If the enemy wants to sit back and try to let the Axis come to them, then the Sturm Tiger is going to be excellent, because it's pretty much got one screen of a range, or rather, a range of one screen. Sorry, and so before you really spot it with your, I guess, advanced spotting units, it can already be aiming at you. So yeah, leaving you not a lot of time to come in and actually, or rather, dodging the rocket. So it is on the field. That's, of course, going to be a nasty shock to the Allies once they lose a few units to that big-ass rocket. So we'll see if the first shot is really going to be that much of a surprise as I'm hyping it up to be. I certainly am hoping so, because I love the Sturm Tiger almost as much as I love Strong KV-2. Oh damn, that was a lot of XP tickers. Of course, probably a lot of kills for that Panzerwerfer. 20 kills, Vetu doing quite fine for himself. The Hooligan doesn't really need to go for any artillery if Von Asten can keep this thing firing, and now he's also got a friend, another Panzerwerfer. So really, the Allies also being behind in terms of artillery isn't going to be helping them out in any kind of capacity, because again, this is turning into one of those kind of stalemate games. Or rather, this has been a stalemate kind of game. So that artillery advantage to the Germans has been able to provide them with a lot of advantages, not just in terms of raw killing of Allied units, but also in terms of disrupting Allied defensive formations. For example, right now this sort of blockhouse of support weapons that the British have set up is going to be incredibly vulnerable to both attacks from the Panzerwerfers and from the, Sturmtiger. So the Sturmtiger sees the Penals, wants to fire at them, actually will cancel the, rocket salvo. Even though if he had fired there, he would have destroyed the Cromwell. But of course he didn't know that because the Cromwell was outside his line of sight. And right now, what is also going to help him out very, very greatly is this infrared half-track, because it is going to provide with a lot of spotting to the Sturmtiger. The Sturmtiger, just like the KV-2, can fire over obstacles. So right now, it would be very, very good for Hooligan to actually make use of that. It can hide behind an obstacle and then, from the shadows, just strike and completely demolish an unsuspecting Allied unit. So it is very, very strong also because of that way. And as you can see, it knew that those Penals were there because of the excellent spotting coming in from the infrared half-track. Love the map Hackswagen, pretty much buy it all the time with the OKW. And as you can see, it's providing some good support. The Sturmtiger getting a wipe with its first shot. Not a bad wipe. I mean, of course, it might have been better to get the first shot off on a blob and get more casualties off. But as long as it gets a wipe, it is good. Because, of course, you always want to get those wipes. Do not want the enemy to be able to get a lot of veterancy up, or to be able to reinforce their squads, of course, for a lesser price than to just replace them outright. So overall, lots of nice things coming in from the Germans. I don't see how the Allies can turn this around. I feel like really the main problem for the Allies was just the fact that, one, they floated at exactly the wrong time. I mean, there's nothing wrong with floating at some points of the game, Sometimes you just want to save up some, extra resources just in case you do not know what the enemy is going for and you're kind of scared, so you want to save up some resources to get a counter to whatever they get. Sure, that can work, but this time they saved up their resources in like that mid-game to late-game juncture moment at around 30 minutes, where the Axis were really starting to get their big late-game armor, such as the King Tiger and, of course, the Panther coming in from Von Asten, plus the Panzerwerfers. So at that point, they needed to try to strike back as much as possible and prevent the Germans from seizing too much of an advantage in the meantime. But then they floated. They floated all that, manpower instead of going for AT guns. Then Isildur also floated a little bit and went for that kind of weird kind of waiting game, and then eventually decided to go with a Firefly. I'm not sure what was the other option, maybe a Comet. But then, of course, the Firefly alone couldn't really do too much because it was a little bit too little too late. So while Isildur played pretty well, one, he didn't make too much of a use of his doctrine. He didn't go for a resupply half-track. In fact, I haven't even gotten the chance to talk about the Special Weapons Regiment because he just didn't use it. He didn't go for a resupply half-track to give his infantry a little bit of an advantage. Instead, he went, of course, for the weapon racks, which was kind of a waste because it's kind of going against one of the main advantages of special weapons, the ability to go with that, resupply half-track that's both a forward reinforcement point and a weapon rack. And then he never really went for concentrated fire operation because he could never really push up enough to actually provide himself with a chance to go for the OKW trucks. And of course, the concentrated fire operation is mostly useful against OKW trucks. And then he, of course, never went for the Crocodile because at some point he just had to go with the Firefly. And Crossfire not going for AT guns, yeah, that was a bit of a big mistake. Also, he started off very well with the KV-2, positioning it in pretty much exactly the spot where I would have. Of course, that's just kind of only my opinion, but I just think that whenever you have a KV-2, you need to be so safe with it because it's going to be reaching the maximum amount of damage that it does. I guess you could say the maximum damage per minute when it is, firing in not secure mode, hold down mode. whatever you want to call it. I don't remember the exact name. When it is firing in hold down mode, of course, because it gets more reload speed and more range. But when it goes with that, of course, it cannot move. So you need to be incredibly safe with it. You need to be safe with it because it's so very expensive of a unit. 630 to 230 fuel. So it's a bit basically an IS-2. You need to keep this thing alive. That must be satisfying for the Sturmtiger. Sturmtiger pictured bullying lesser vehicles. Anyway, oh, interesting tactic by the Cromwell, ramming the Panther. Anyway, yeah, what I was going to say is that basically you need to keep the Sturmtiger alive. And to do that, you need to keep it as much in the rear as possible because it's a lot of range. So you can keep it quite a bit, you know, behind the front line. You don't need it in the front line. And you especially don't need it in places where it is going to be attacked in multiple angles because its turret is very, very, very much slow at rotating. And you don't also want it in a place where it is ahead of any other unit. You want it in the back. You want other units taking shots for it because while it is a heavy tank, its armor is lackluster. And in general, it's not going to be able to run away. That's really the main thing that is really the problem with the KV-2. It's not going to be able to run away if it's in hold down mode. So you just need to keep it in the back. It's just a lot of words to repeat the same simple concept. And overall, I feel like that was a huge turning point for Crossfire. He had the KV-2. He could have used it to great effect, but unfortunately, he just put it up a little tiny bit too quickly. And then what that really meant is that he could not recover from that. So overall, nice job from both players, both teams. And yeah, if you have any suggestions, if you have any different ideas on the outcome of the game, do tell me in the comments. I want to thank you all for watching. I hope you've enjoyed. If you did, drop a like down below as I look at the sexy behind of the KT. And if you didn't, drop a dislike. As always, hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you soon.